This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Hello and welcome to the Research Talks podcast here on Stock Box with Alan Green. How are you doing, Alan, again?
Very good, thanks, Mark. It's been a lovely end to the week, spectacular weather,
Good.
blue sky. Yeah, it's fairly warm around midday, but boy, oh boy, as the hours get on during the day, the temperature starts to drop, so it's still pretty cold. How are things with you?
Yes, all good, thank you. Had a week up in Scotland at the Stockbox office. We've got a new office up there, so I was up there with the rest of the team building a new studio, and then back to my usual Netherlands home of residence on Sunday. So yeah, a good productive week. It's good to meet up with people in person. You get a lot of work done, so that was all very good. So today we're going to cover Fulcrum Metals, aren't we? Who we did speak about before, who are listing. They have their IPO date confirmed for Tuesday, Valentine's Day, actually the 14th of February. They will be ringing the bell at the London Stock Exchange. So Ryan is very excited about that. I spoke to him very briefly the end of last week, and he looked absolutely tired. I'm not going to use another word, but absolutely destroyed. I'm going to say. I only watch my language.
Yeah.
He looked very, very tired. He'd been up very late getting things sorted, and there's a lot of things to do in the run up to an IPO. So he was there. Yeah, you could tell he was exhausted. So he's looking forward to getting that on Tuesday, and I'm sure we'll have a catch up shortly after that as well on Stockbox. But we're going to get a bit of an update from you today on that investment case and the project, and of course sovereign metals as well. We're going to be covering. So take it away, Alan. Over to you.
Okay. So, well, likewise, Mark. I've been in touch. I was in touch with Ryan yesterday, and his feet literally haven't touched the ground over the past few weeks. As you say, there is so much to do for a limited company in the run up to a listing, and Ryan is certainly he's certainly been burning the candle at both ends. But it's interesting. I was introduced to Ryan by Darren Hazelwood, and of course Darren of Panther Metals. We spoke about Panther last week, operating in the same area in Canada on the north coast there of Lake Superior, but also operating in the Athabasca region as well, in Saskatchewan. But I'll come on to the details of the projects shortly. So Ryan's held senior positions in companies in the audit and consultancy field for some 15 years. Also, like Darren Hazelwood, he's a seasoned investor and entrepreneur in the natural resources sector, and along with his co-founder, director Aidan O'Hara, who's also an experienced investor, and has also founded a number of successful property businesses and also a private mining company in West Africa. So a lot of experience there, a lot of entrepreneurialism, which when you're bringing a company to market, you've got to have that. It's an essential element, I think, to bring to the board and to leadership, because you've got to make that company extraordinary. You've got to set that company above and let the market see why that company has a competitive edge. But as you said, Mark, Fulcrum is coming to market under the ticker FMET, FMET, on the Valentine's Day. So let's hope there'll be a lot of love shown for the company on that day. Market capitalization of just over 8 million, well, 8.7 million. In fact, they've raised 3 million in the IPO process. Strong investor support for the company and its projects. And in terms of structure, the board own just over 30% or will own just over 30% of the shares in issue on admission to the market. And that's that's very much the board aligning themselves with investors and shareholders. So that structure is very attractive, I think, as an investment proposition. So the company is coming to market with a portfolio of projects in rich mineral prospective areas in Canada, on the north coast of Lake Superior. That's the Schreiber Hemlo Gold Belt. And also in Athabasca, in the Athabasca Basin, which is famous, of course, for many other operating companies there. So most of the projects owned by the company are operating close or near to producing mines. The flagship that the company is going to focus on is the Schreiber Hemlo property, and this is very much the short-term focus of the company is to develop what, of course, is the Big Bear project. Your listeners to the podcast remember I spoke about the Big Bear project a couple of weeks ago. That's the former Panther Metals project, and of course, Panther retain an interest in the company going forward, and will have an interest, 20% interest, when when the float takes place on Tuesday. So Big Bear and Jackfish Lake properties at the Schreiber Hemlo Gold Belt encompass a land position there of about 113 square kilometers, and these are sited just 80 kilometers west, of course, of the world famous Hemlo gold mine. And of course, the Barrick Hemlo mine there has produced more than 22 million ounces of gold over the years. It's also west of Generation Mining's Marathon palladium copper mine, and that's producing some 245,000 ounces of palladium or palladium equivalent every year. And overall in this region, some 38 significant mineral occurrences have been recorded. And they're also the company's also noticed a number of high-grade double-digit rock samples up to 53.7 grams per ton, and those are, that's very much at commercial grade right there. So it's a very exciting launch pad to come to market with. The company have also undertaken there are soil sampling records there up to 18 grams per ton, and as with other companies operating in the area, of course, we've spoken about First Class Metals operating in the same area. The drill intersections there, the historical drill intersections include just over half a meter at 19% zinc, and historical bulk sampling also indicating an average of 17 grams per ton of gold. So again, this is a fertile, mineral-rich region the company is launching into. There are also a number of shear zones across the company assets, and it's these geological shears, these where the two rock plates have moved over, they create pockets, and those pockets are due to the heat of the process. Billions or millions of years ago, the mineralization is formed, and of course, it's these shears run across the region, and there are already exploration permits in place. A lot of the work's already been done in that regard. So just as First Class Metals came to market so spectacularly last summer, at a very similar valuation, I might add, they hit the ground running. They delivered. Mark Sell and the team delivered. It looks with Fulcrum Metals as though the company's set to pretty well replicate that. So as we go forward, the company's strategy is looking to structure the best approach to explore the prospectivity in the region, and it's undertaking a strategy called nearology. So it's basing a lot of its exploration work on projects which are adjacent to existing producing assets, and because the geological anomalies invariably run across these producing assets into unexplored areas, that's where the excitement really lies. So you're really narrowing down the risk, or you're reducing the risk, and you're narrowing down your target area into an area where an anomaly continues from a producing asset. So in terms of neurology, the company's Winston Lake project is next to Metallum's Zinc Resources Superior Lake project. And there's an indicated resource at Winston Lake of 2.35 million tons at a grading of just under 80% zinc, 0.8% copper, 0.4 grams per ton gold, and also 33 or 33.6 grams per ton of silver. Also located on the southeast limb of the Michipicoten greenstone belts, is the Dog Lake project, and this is sited less than 30 kilometers from two significant producing mines that are producing in excess of 1 million ounces a year, and these are of course the Island Gold Mine and the Magino Gold Mine. Then also the Daihisara project. Now the Daihisara project is very close to Palladium One's Tycho project in the east, and of course we were speaking recently about First Class Metals and the West Lake Pickle project. There are geological anomalies galore that run through this area, and Palladium One's Tycho project is really catching the attention of the global mining audience with what they're producing there, and this is a fast emerging nickel sulfide district, and we've already seen some of the high grade results that First Class Metals are putting out of the ground, and obviously what Palladium One have already done, and that gives a very strong indication, I think, of the potential of the Daihisara project. So that really summarizes the opportunity for Fulcrum Metals within the Schreiber-Hemlo belt. We then move to Saskatchewan, and of course Saskatchewan is home to the Athabasca region, and this is a huge region, also containing many other exploration projects and many operations from long-established companies in the region. So it's important for uranium, and of course uranium is very much a key metal right now. In fact, an interview that I did with our resident analyst Ken Baksh last year, Ken highlighted uranium as a mineral for which there will be a significant demand and shortage of during 2023. So in terms of timing, Fulcrum Metals are absolutely bang on the money with this. They have two assets there: the Charlotte Neely Lake asset, which where uranium grab samples have noted up to 6.2%. That's just random grab sampling, and also there is a potential gold target at the Charlotte Neely Lake asset. So for an unverified drill report from the 1930s, which indicated gold mineralization from samples, one hole 45 meters down came in with 3.9 grams per ton. So I mean, as you can imagine, you've got this vast wilderness, and it's just chock full of opportunities for mining companies commencing exploration work. And of course, as we've said on many occasions, Mark, modern mining techniques, modern data analysis can really help hone and fast track the process in order to get to the metal to find the asset. Also in Saskatchewan is the Fontaine Lake asset. There's a radiometric target there, also containing very encouraging historical grab samples up to 1.28% uranium. Also anomalous rare earth samples identified there too. So again, once the team are on the ground there getting those samples back, then we can get a much clearer picture of just what's contained there. So Fulcrum Metals, in summary, coming to market next Tuesday on Valentine's Day. So we have a large, highly prospective project portfolio ripe for development, and I think very much like Fulcrum Metals, these guys are going to hit the ground running. Ryan and Aidan are going to drive this hard from day one. There's a very strong market backdrop across all of these assets for gold, base metals, and uranium. And the IPO, that money's already raised. There's a history of success by both Ryan and Aidan, and of course they have a strong board, technical director Ed Slowey and Mitchell Smith, who's also a director. He's currently chief executive of TSX listed Global Energy Metals Corporation and chief ops at Panther Metals. So a lot of cross pollination of ideas and resources there. And I think once Fulcrum come to market, if they can replicate what First Class Metals did last year, and looking at the portfolio of assets, they seem very well placed to do that. This could be a very exciting investment at a very modest IPO valuation.
Indeed, excellent. It's good to see it coming together finally, isn't it? Of course, the IPO date on Tuesday. I've assembled a nice little portfolio of packages there of projects, and yeah, they've got the money now to go and explore them. So good luck to them on Tuesday. I'll be catching up with Ryan, I'm sure, to get an idea of the plans as they hopefully can hit the ground running and follow in the footsteps of the likes of First Class Metals, for example, and really get going quite rapidly. So thank you for that, Alan. That's a good synopsis of First Class Metals. So on to Sovereign Metals then.
Sovereign Metals. Sovereign Metals are a dual listed company, listed both on the ASX with the EPIC code SVM and on AIM with the EPIC code SVML. And Sovereign Metals are the owners of the largest rutile project in the world. What's rutile, I hear you ask? Well, rutile is an oxide mineral compound. Well, it's the oxide mineral compound that's made up primarily of titanium dioxide. Key uses for titanium dioxide include feedstocks for titanium dioxide pigment. So if you go to B&Q and you get a tin of brilliant white paint, it's the titanium dioxide in that paint that gives it the brilliant white. But it's also a very protective, has very protective qualities too. And for example, the big wind farms that you see out at sea, they're painted, they'll all be painted with titanium dioxide paint. It has applications also for welding, flux and titanium metal. There's a key issue with rutile at the moment in that it is a genuinely scarce commodity. There have been no major discoveries for over 50 years. Two major Western mines are most likely coming off stream in the near term, and there's a very limited new supply. And what the team led by Dr. Julian Stevens have done is developed and built up this project called the Kasia project in Malawi. And Kasia it's a huge area. It's the largest, it's a transformative moment really for the rutile industry, in that it is the largest rutile discovery ever in history. 1.8 billion tons of rutile, and that compares to Sierra Rutile, of course, in Sierra Leone, the Sembahang asset there, which is just 8.1 million tons. The Iluka Resources assets by Bald in Australia, that's just 2 million tons. And the Kwale Base Resources assets in Kenya, which is just 0.7 million tons. So again, in comparison, this is vast. And Kasia is also the team there, or the team on the ground there, have undertaken a lot of groundwork during the year, undertaken sampling and drilling. And what they've seen is that over an area, probably the size of London, they have rutile that isn't just on the surface, but goes down, and it's at depth across this entire area. So it's so vast that it's a game-changing asset for the country, and of course for the people living in the region. In terms of access to markets, it's in an area called, or close to an area called the Nacala Logistics Corridor, and of course Nacala is a deep water port out on the coast of Mozambique, and literally from Kasia they can load straight onto a train, and that train runs straight to the port. So It's there ready to be used. And of course, from the Nacala port, they've got the direct connection there to global markets. But Cassia isn't just famous for rutile. It's also there's also a major graphite discovery too, and the throughout the development work at the project, the most recent scoping study upgraded the economics, and they're already exceptional. But the latest economics show an after-tax net present value of 1.53 billion US dollars. Life of mine revenue of 12 billion, and the annual production of rutile at 242 kilotons per annum, and also for graphite 155 kilotons per annum too. The life of mine is estimated to be some 25 years, and it's going to be a game-changing asset on so many levels. And already this has caught the attention of major users of rutile. Mitsui have signed an MOU with Sovereign Metals for off-taking marketing rights for 30,000 tons of natural rutile per annum. Chemours, the US company, is one of the world's largest producers of high-quality titanium dioxide pigments. They signed an MOU for 20,000 tons, and also Hascore, famous for it's a market-leading processor and distributor of rutile products for the welding industry. They've signed an MOU for 25,000 tons, and we're going to see more players come in for that. Of that, there is no doubt. So, of course, a project of this scale requires an infrastructure to come with it, and there's an awful lot of interest on a global level. In fact, the Prime Minister of Malawi addressed the UN and discussed this amazing find at Cassia and how important it would be to the future of the country. So it's a huge step for Sovereign. It's a huge step for the people living in Malawi, and of course all of the knock-on benefits that will have for the region. So the company recently put out the latest presentation, which just shows or it details the uses of rutile, and of course the potential for the graphite that's also present at the project. And if you go to the Sovereign Metals website and look at the latest presentation, you can get a very good idea of just how far along the road this is, along with the latest project economics and so on. Just to sort of give you a brief snapshot of the company, where it is now. There are a number of major shareholders in the company. There's a company called Sprott Asset Management. They've been building their stake step by step. They now own 11.8%, up from 10% recently. The share price for Sovereign Metals in the UK is currently 28p. That's up from a year low of 20p. And of course, when the company first announced the scale of the Cassia asset back in April, May last year, the share price shot up to year highs of around 54p on the day, and it's come back since then. But of course, something of the scale, it takes a long time to develop and to bring to market. And I think there's a real opportunity here simply because of the scarcity of rutile globally, that Sovereign Metals could very well be a target for acquisition by one of the major mining groups around the world. And of course, merger and acquisition is always an exciting time for any company. There's been nothing on the rise about that yet, but I think if you look at the scarcity of rutile, the size of this asset, also the scale of infrastructure that needs to be built to mine this asset, I think it does put Sovereign firmly in the frame for that. But of course, that That's just my view, and you need to do your own research to fully understand that. But I'd urge people interested in looking more at this to go to the website. There's, as I say, there's an excellent presentation on the site that tells you all about the project and all about the uses of rutile, and also the plans that Sovereign has for the future, which include, of course, the demerger of the standalone graphite projects that are in the area. There are three graphite projects: the Malagunde, Dewey, and Nanzika graphite project, and those the company plans to spin those off in due course, and we will have news on that, no doubt, going forward. And to me, that makes perfect sense because, of course, where the rutile project is of such a huge scale, I think it's important that the company operating that just focuses on that alone. But then, of course, it may mean that the graphite projects could also be targeted by another company outside of that as well. So that all remains to be seen. But I think given the recent consolidation of the share price, there's been an upswing in the share price since January 25th, when the shares were trading at 23p. We're now at 28p. So I think this is a good entry point to really have access and to benefit from what I believe will be substantial future upside for Sovereign.
Did you say that Sprott Asset Management were involved or held a significant number of shares?
They hold 11.84%.
11%.
Yeah,
That's Sprott as in the global, Rick
Global
Rule.
Asset Management. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's an endorsement there. And what was the MPV you said, Alan? What, 1.5 billion?
1.5 billion. Yeah, there is in the presentation. The results from the latest scoping study and also comparisons to other studies. After-tax NPV of $1.53 billion, after-tax internal rate of return 36%, life of mine revenue just over $12 billion, and also annual production numbers and everything else. But the mine life is going to be 25 years, and of course the ESG factor is significant nowadays too, because if you're going in to build a mine on this scale, you need a very strong ESG strategy to go with it, because of course it will disrupt the area. So when you mine an area like that, you then have to return it back to its former state. But of course, at the same time, you're creating all these opportunities for the local workforce there, and the knock-on benefits both into health and of course into education too. And Malawi is very much the warm heart of Africa, so it's a very stable political regime there, and it's a very investable proposition, I believe.
It certainly sounds like it. What was the market cap, Alan, again?
The market cap is currently 244 million Australian dollars. So that's just over 100 million sterling. And I think given the scale, 1.8 billion tons of rutile, it's that's a huge number by any standards, and a net present value of 1.53 billion dollars.
That sounds very good.
So really, I believe that valuation gap will be addressed rapidly as this year progresses.
What are some of the key milestones this year, Alan, that we can perhaps look out for?
Well, with a lot of the drilling work that's been undertaken recently has been undertaken to assess how far the rutile goes down, and that's all detailed in the presentation. And I think the market needs to understand, the mineralization lies in what they call a lateral extensive near surface blanket. It's widespread, it's high grade from surface for up to 25 meters down. So that's I think it's the NPV at present is based on earlier data. So I think once this data is reassessed, I think we're going to see a significant upgrade to those through an upgraded scoping study. And of course, then when you've got organizations like Sprott involved and other investors, I think there's every opportunity or every possibility this could well get fast tracked and money could pour in to make it happen. But equally, as I said, I think the scarcity of rutile, the fact that there've been no new rutile projects or rutile discoveries for 50 years apart from this one, and also the fact that a couple of mines are coming off stream within the next few years, heightens the importance of Cassia. So really, I think it offers a great opportunity, and there are so many potential growth and value drivers built into that, and obviously potential M&A activity is one of them.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so some further drilling to get an updated scoping study. Okay, that would be a big one to watch out for this year. But that sounds very interesting, Alan, and particularly the spotter involved. That's a huge endorsement there. So thank you for bringing us up to speed on sovereign metals, and of course telling us about Fulcrum Metals, who are IPOing on Tuesday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll speak in a week's time.
You too, Mark. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.